Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter when you may be catching this particular episode of the Morning Press. I'm Health Spells, the voice coach. I'm super excited, guys. Why? Because oh my goodness, so many things have been coming down the pipeline. There are updates and shenanigans and oh my goodness, it just wows me every time I think about where we've come and where we're going. But I want to come to you guys and really say, hey, listen, knowing when it's time to shift is simple. It's easy. Most of us have that gut feeling. We know that it's time to move on or something of that nature. Good morning. How are you this morning? We know that if something doesn't feel right, the situation doesn't seem right, but you know it's time to shift, and making the decision to actually move is the hardest thing ever. I am so just like through the roof simply because I've been able to learn that about myself and be honest with myself about it, because you don't always want to shift. Let's be honest. We don't want to try new things all the time, right? Good morning, Tanika. Hey, sis. We don't always want to try something new, do stuff. We don't always want to have to rebrand and all of these other different things. But the reality is you got to understand that doing the same thing, looking for a different result, is definitely the definition of insanity, people. That is what it is. So, in order for us not to fall victim to that definition, in order for us to not fall victim to doing something that we don't love, or just doing something just to do it, then we have to get into a mindset of, okay, I got to make this shift. I got to make this shift. And if I don't make this shift, what'll happen is I'm going to put myself into um I'm going to put myself into a bubble. I'm going to put myself into a negative mindset. I'm going to get frustrated at some point. And that I was having a conversation yesterday with one of my sisters, and I was just talking to her, and I said, about some of the things coming down. Good morning, Ian. Good morning. Hey, Tara. Hey, sis. Just talking to her about some of the changes that were being made and one of the decisions that I made. And she said, are you going to be able to last that long? Because there's going to be a shift. And when the shift happens, mentally, we have to determine if we're able to stay in that same mindset, in that same capacity. Good morning. Hey, Michael. Are we able to stay in that same capacity? So let's be honest. When we're at a job and we know that we're no longer feeling that job, we know that that job is no longer working for us, we feel it when the shift happens. We can literally tell you the exact date that it happened. We can tell you the exact moment, the exact time, what happened in that moment. But there's a shift that happens. And when that shift happens, our productivity goes down. When the shift happens, there's a different demeanor that we have when we're at the job. When that shift happens, there's a different mindset. We're not showing up early anymore. Now we're showing up late. We're not doing above and beyond anymore. Now we're doing just the bare minimum, the burr. We're doing the bare minimum. But the reality is it's because that shift has happened, and we did not want to look at that shift for what it was and say, what do I need to do in reaction to this shift. Hey, Braz, good morning. And it happens so quickly sometimes that we don't really get the time to catch our breath. It happens so quickly sometimes that we're kind of like fiddling around trying to figure out how we're going to what's wrong with us. Something must be wrong with us. It's not saying that something is wrong with you. There was a shift that happened. And we knew that the shift happened. We saw it happen. We literally were sitting there watching it as the stardust was falling out the sky. But instead of us making the shift, instead of us going ahead and saying, what do I need to do? We stayed in that moment. Sometimes out of fear, sometimes out of just being comfortable, we stayed where we were. How many of you can think about moments where you stayed where you were and you look back and you're like now, like, oh man, I knew I should have been gone. I knew I should have left. I knew things weren't right, but I stayed anyway. How many of you have that same understanding? How many of you have that same recollection? You can think about some things, you can think about some jobs, and then you stayed at the job, and then something happened, and you ended up having to leave the job anyway, or the job ended up closing, or come on, come on. Michael said, please stop talking about me this morning. I needed you to understand that at times in our journey, in our lives, we're going to have shifts that happen. Somebody say, listen, you've either gone through a shift, you're in a shift, or you're about to go through a shift. You know how when we go to church, y'all know, come on, don't act like I'm the only church goer on the broadcast this morning. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You know how literally they tell you you've either been through it, you're going through it, or you about to go through it. And this is your preparation. This is your information. This is your wake-up call. Hello, are you woke? Are you woke? Hello, good morning. Good morning. Hey, Adrian, thanks for sharing, sis. You got to understand that there's a shift that will happen. Sometimes the shift will happen because we are no longer able to work in that environment. Sometimes the shift happens. Good morning, Lillian. Hey, sis. Sometimes the shift happens because we've outgrown where we were. Sometimes you'll hear it in the church. They always say, God will make provision. And at some point, when the provision is gone, maybe it's time for you to no longer be there. That part. When we think about a baby bird, the mother bird kind of pushes it out the nest. The mother bird does some things to the nest to make it go, to make it leave. And there's things in the nest that will make it uncomfortable. So it has to learn to fly. It has to learn to get out of the nest. Some of those things are the sticks, and it'll be things that is poking them. And so you got to understand that that's how it is for us as well. There's going to be moments where, somebody going to catch it this morning. You're going to catch it on your way into work today. Come on. Michael said that the grace has lifted and God is pushing you out of the nest. Exactly. You're being pushed out of the nest into something greater, because this is the thing. If the bird never was pushed out of the nest, then they would not fly. They would not be able to eat. Somebody going to hear me this morning. They would not be able to eat. They would not be able to sustain themselves. They would not be able to grow and learn and live. They would not be able to go and build a family. They would not be able to, come on, y'all not catching it this morning. They would not be able to do those things that are necessary and needed for them to survive. I've had this conversation with you guys before about the eagle. And at some point, the eagle goes through a transformation where things are uncomfortable. The beak has grown out too long and they can't pick up food. Their talons are too long and they can't grasp the things they need to grab a hold of. There's a point where the feathers have gotten too heavy and matted down, and it's harder for them to fly. There's a shift that needs to happen, and that eagle must make the decision that I'm either going to make this thing, I'm going to make the transformation. Ooh, y'all better catch this morning. I'm either going to make the transformation necessary for me to live longer, or I'm going to die. I don't know if y'all ready this morning. I'm either going to make the transformation that I need to make in order for this to go to a whole nother level. So for the eagle, at about year 40, they have to go through this transformation. And the transformation is they literally have to beat their beak onto a rock until they knock their beak out. And then a new beak comes and forms and a new beak grows. So you got to go through this process. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. You got to go through the process, but they got to literally beat their beak onto a rock until they knock the beak out so the new beak can grow in. Their talons are too long. So once the new beak grows in, they have to pull their talons out and find ways to remove their talons so that way they can have new talons so they are able to grab the food. Because guess what? Some of you things have outgrown in your circle. in your business. Things have been overgrown now. And so now it's time to go and remove things and cut things down in order for you to grab a hold of the new clients, in order for you to grab a hold of the new customers, in order for you to be able to have the new ideas and the new creativity that is waiting for you. The creativity is there. The opportunities are there. No one can ever say that there is not an opportunity for you to be great, because guess what? Every day that you wake up, there's an opportunity for you to be great. Come on. Hey, Kiana. Hey, good morning. Every opportunity. So at year 40, the eagle literally beats its beak onto a rock in order to knock the beak out. It pulls, once the beak grows back in, it pulls its talons out in order for the talons to regrow. But this is the other thing, is it also pulls and plucks the feathers off of its body. This is the thing. Good morning, Tanae. Hey, Latanya. Hey, sis. You got to understand that there are going to be some things that something else, you need something to help you in order to make this transition. But there's going to be some things that you need to do for you. There's going to be some action that you have to take. There's going to be something that you need to accomplish on your own. And guess what? Nobody can help you do it. And it's going to take time. Y'all not ready this morning. I don't know. I don't know if y'all ready this morning. It's going to take time. There's going to be things that you need to accomplish. Thank you so much for those reactions. There's going to be things that you need to accomplish. There's going to be things that you need to do. So literally, the eagle has to go and to pick the feathers. Do you know how painful that must have been to go and knock your beak onto a rock in order to knock it out, to pull out your own talents, to go ahead and pull out your own feathers? Yes, it is painful, but it's for a purpose. Come on. That's your confession. That's your confession this morning. Even when it's painful, I'm going to move forward in the purpose. Even when it's painful, I'm going to move forward in the purpose. There is a purpose for him to remove all of those things. It's so that way he can add on another 30 years. So it's either I don't make the changes and I die right where I am, or I make the changes and I'm able to live another 30 years. You got to make the decision. And nobody can make the decision for you. Whew. It's not like somebody can make you do it. I get it. I get it. But you got to make the decision for you. You got to put yourself in a position to where you're saying, I said I wanted to do this. I said this needed to be done. I said this is where I wanted to go. So in order for me to go to this level, in order for me to do this thing, then I need to get my behind in gear. It's in the purpose of what I'm trying to do. I said I wanted to go bigger. I said I wanted to go stronger. I said I wanted to move further. I said I wanted to do some things. Well, guess what? I can go to every conference in the world and I can collect every strategy in the world and I can read every book. But if I implement absolutely nothing, it means nothing. I can be a conference hopper instead of a club hopper. Y'all not hearing me. Y'all didn't hear me this morning. Good morning, Tammy. Y'all didn't hear. Come on. Y'all can be a conference hopper instead of a club hopper. Get all of the conferences you want. Get all the swag bags. Get all the pretty little things in the bag. Get all the, come on. And never make a change. And never make a change. Never move to that next level. Never achieve greatness. And this is the thing. I'm not saying greatness means that you have to be 7 figures. I'm not saying greatness means that you have to leave your job. I'm saying greatness is living your greatest life. Living to your greatest potential. That's greatness. You may not need to leave your job to be your best life. You have to live your best life. You may not need to leave your job to do that. Matter of fact, you may run the place one day. And that's how you live your best life. You never know. But the reality is if I never take action, it means absolutely nothing. I'll be stuck in the same spot. Years from now, I'll be stuck in the same spot. trying to figure out what went wrong, trying to figure out why I'm still here, trying to figure out why things still look the same. Come on. Right? Come on. She said, an information junkie is what I used to be. Come on. Today I take action and make the change. That's it. And you know what? And Tanae said it in the comments. Having the courage to change is the struggle. Because so many times we go through that internal battle, that inner me. Not the enemy, the inner me sometimes is what's going on. And we're going through that internal battle. And with that internal battle, we're saying, okay, but if I change, what's that going to mean for my family? What's that going to mean for my friends? What does that mean? Am I going to be able to still go and do this and do that? This is the thing, is that we can't look at, ooh, somebody gonna catch it. We can't look at where we're going through the eyes of where we are. We can't look at where we're going through the eyes of where we are, because where we are is our current circumstance, and where we're going may be completely different than where we are. Think about it when you go to travel somewhere. Where I'm coming from is not going to look the same as where I'm going. They may have some similarities, but they're not the same. And so I have to prepare myself for this shift. And there's some attributes that I really need to have, but I got to prepare myself for this shift. And I got to go ahead and make the shift happen. Come on. I got to look and see, and wherever I'm going, it's not going to look like where I am. This shift is going to make me look at things differently. It's going to make me look at people differently. It's going to make me talk differently. It's going to make me understand differently. This is the thing, is that if I do it the right way and make that shift, then I am going to change. You know how people always say, I ain't going to change. I ain't going to change. The game ain't going to change me. Well, if the game doesn't change you, then you're not playing the game the right way. Because at some point I cannot do it how I did it in that atmosphere, because that atmosphere is not this atmosphere. There has to be a shift. There's no way around it. Good morning, Monica. There's no way around it. There has to be a shift. And when I'm determined to go ahead and take the necessary steps to make that shift of reality, then not only do I shift things for me, I shift things for my children. I shift things for my generation. I shift things for my community. I shift things for other people, simply because I have decided that I'm going to make the shift. But it's going to be a little difficult at times. That's it. That's it. And so the attributes that I said that you need to have when you look at this eagle, and the eagle has to remove its beak, it has to remove its talents, it has to remove its feathers in order for it to live another 30 years, in order for it to almost double its life capacity, its life expectation, it has to go through this shift, it has to go through this process. There's some things that you have to do. So the eagle had to learn what it was that they needed to do. They had to learn. You have to have a desire to learn. Come on. You have to have that desire to learn. Come on, come on. That's where, so Monica made a great statement. She said, asked a great question. She said, so what happens when you decide and nothing happens? How do you know nothing has happened? Are you looking at just for yourself, or are you looking at what's happening around you? Are you looking at the way that you're talking and the way that you're seeing yourself? Or are you just looking at a couple steps that you've taken? Because it does take time. Good morning, Ria. Hey, good morning. It does take time for the shift to happen, for things to transpire, because we got to understand the habits that we've had them for some time. We've took some time to have these habits. We put in work to have these habits, good or bad. So it doesn't just happen over time. The same thing happens when we're working out. Thank you for encouraging her, Michael. That's it. Thank you for the encouragement. That's why I love this community. That's it. And so the results, it may be, what results are you looking for though? So for instance, for when you're working out, and Tierra can say this, she's in the comments, she's a personal trainer. When you're working out, I could be working out, I could be walking, I could be doing things and changing my eating habits, and physically I may not see a result, but I feel something. I feel myself getting a little stronger. I feel myself being a lot more rested. I feel myself able to breathe better as I'm walking throughout the day. I feel the change. I feel things happening, but you may not physically see it. There's going to be a feeling that you have. If the changes that you are making are actually moving you towards change, there will be a feeling that you have. You will be more confident. You will be in that mindset that when you get up in the morning, now you're ready to go. If you're not, then something needs to shift again. Something needs to shift again, because what happens is, if I get up in the morning and I know that I've made significant changes in my business, and I just had this conversation with Tierra yesterday, and sometimes I need to shift something else. It's okay to make another change. That's it. Come on. It's okay if I make another change. If it's going to move me towards where I need to be, it's okay if I make another shift. If it's going to move me if I need to be. One of the things I always tell authors is that, as an author, we always get so hung up on what the book cover is going to be, and what it's going to look like, but we forget that we can always go back and republish it with another book cover. Maya Angelou did it. Guess what? We got to understand that we are in a position to shift, and that shift is going to take us to success. Can I tell you something though? Sometimes the shift that we made, and this is an internal thing that we have to understand, sometimes the shift we made was not necessarily the shift we needed. The shift we made was the one that we thought we needed. It was the one that somebody told us we needed. It was the one that somebody said, oh no, you need to do X, Y, and Z. It wasn't necessarily what we needed. So we have to, this is internal. Internally, I have to say, what's the shift that I have to do? What's the thing that I have to change? Good morning, Karen. I have to know what it is for me. You can go to whatever guru you know. Listen, every guru will give you the greatest strategy. They will give you the greatest words of wisdom. They will give you everything from the stage, in a book, everything. But the reality is I have to still know what's going to work for me. What's going to work for me? I can put into plan, and I can take action on somebody else's strategy, and it could have made them $1 million and only make me $50. I got to make sure it's what I needed. So now you got to go back and say, the shifts that I made that part, the shifts that I made, were they the shifts that were needed? Were they the ones that I necessarily needed in order for me to be successful? Were they the ones that I needed in this season? Because sometimes, can we talk about shifting too early? Can we talk about it? Can we talk about shifting too early, shifting too soon, and what you start doing to your gears, and what you start doing to yourself internally when you shift too soon because you were not prepared for what was coming? Y'all, come on. You were not prepared for what was coming, so you shifted too soon or you shifted too late. That's where the community comes in. That's where having that support system comes in. That's where being able to go to your sister or your brother, being able to turn to your left or to your right and say, hey, I did this. It's not working. What else can I do? It's having that person that I can get on the phone with and have that honest conversation about what's working or not working. It's that moment, that person having that accountability. That's one of the reasons why we did the accountability call every Saturday, is because I need somebody that I can go and talk to and just say, okay, this not working, this worked, but this didn't work. And that's one of the things that I see a lot of programs don't have, is they have the strategy. That's great. But are they giving you the accountability? It's the accountability that can push you past that brick wall that's standing before you. It's the accountability that can push you past that moment of distress when you think all heck is breaking loose. It's that accountability. It's that sense of community that comes together and says, we got you. We see you struggling. We got you. What do you need? Come on. We got you. Look, take the information and make it your own. That's right, Tierra. I can give you all. And one of the things that I learned, especially with doing these surveys the last few weeks and talking to the people who are in our free good groups and our paid memberships and our mastermind, and talking to me and the team, having a moment to talk to them and find out what processes, what things are working, what's not working, is that, listen, sometimes you just got to go back and say, if it ain't working, let's cut it. But did I give it enough time first? See, for the system we've been using, I've given them a 90-day period to see if it was going to work. It's not working, so we change it. That's okay. That's all right. You gotta make that shift. To put yourself in a position of success, you gotta make that shift. I see too many people who have greatness on the inside of them who are literally stuck. And it's because they got the strategy, they got the book, they got the tips, they got the resources, but they're not taking anything into effect. They're not moving forward in the way that they should be moving forward. And so knowing that the shift is there, that's easy. You know. Come on, saints. You know when the shift happens. You know when it's time to do something new. You know when it's time to change something up. But what happens? We get fearful and we pull back. And we say, no, that's just me being bored, or that's just me being anxious. That's just me being, no. When will we get to a season where we start to listen to ourselves? Listen to that internal voice. Listen to the Holy Spirit talking to you. When will you get to that moment where you stop trying to just worry about what everybody on the outside is talking to you about and listen to what the person that's on the inside is saying to you? Because a lot of times we will bypass our own inner voice to listen to everybody else's. And we will. We will bypass our own inner voice to listen to everybody else's voice and then sit and wonder why it is that we're stuck. And all along, on the inside, it was saying, listen, that's not a good look. You might need to shift that. You might need to make that change. You might need to stop doing this. We allow the outside things to combat what we're feeling on the inside. We allow ourselves to say that what it looks like and bypass our feelings. So those attributes that we have, that we need in order to make that shift, is that desire to learn. I see so many people who, listen, they say, I don't have enough time to read a book. Why don't you? I don't have enough time to take a class. I don't have enough time to go back to school. I don't have enough time. Why don't you? Why don't you have enough time? Because oftentimes we have plenty of time. We're not utilizing it the best. We're not making the best or the most of our time. And that's one of those other attributes we need to have when making that shift, is some time management. Sitting down and saying, okay, I know I need this. I know I need to spend at least an hour a day in my business. I know I need to spend an hour a day, talking to my children and engaging it with them and really having some dialogue with them. I know that I need to do some things and spend some time doing this. I know I need to have some self-care. So I need to make sure I make time for it. We got to make time for it. We got to make time for it, y'all. There's enough going on. I get it. But we have to be the ones to determine what we value, not what somebody told us to value. What do you value? So those attributes: desire to learn, time management, community and support. Good morning, Pam. Hey, sis. Hey, Audra. Desire to learn, time management, community and support. This next one is very important. Is your why strong enough? And, it was interesting because I found that in talking to clients and people on the phone, I'll get with somebody on the phone who say that they're, interested in changing, shifting their business. They're interested in doing. Exactly, Michael. Michael said, what you value, you attract. I know that's right. Why your why must be strong enough. And if your why is not strong enough, what will happen is when the turbulence happens, in that moment where you have to make that shift, like the eagle, in that moment where you have to pull out your own talents and you have to break off your own beak, in that moment where you have to pull out your feathers, there's going to be this battle of, do I really want to do this? Is there something that, can I really handle doing this? Good morning, Verlin. Hey, sis. Is there something, is this something that I can really do? Is this something I can really accomplish? That why is going to have to be strong enough that you can stand on it as a foundation for why you're moving forward, for why the eagle. So that 30 years added to their life as an eagle is the why that they would go through taking and hitting their beak on a rock in order for their beak to come out. That why of having another 30 years of life and longevity is the reason why they would take and go ahead and pull out their talents and be able to, so that way they could be able to still grab the food that they needed to eat. That why has to be strong enough. Good morning. Hey, sis. Good morning. That why has to be strong enough. And if that why is not strong enough, at the first sign of trouble, the first time that you realize that the shift is going to hurt a little bit, you'll quit if your why is not strong enough. The first time that you realize that the shift is going to take you out of your comfort zone, you'll quit because your why is not strong enough. The first time that you realize that your why has to be strong enough because your shift is going to include you doing something new that nobody's ever done before, something new that you've never done before, you'll quit if that why is not strong enough. When you're putting in the work, when you're doing what needs to be done, the why has to be strong. It has to be a firm foundation. Because if not, it will crack under pressure. And I've seen way too many crack under pressure. Way too many. I've seen way too many get started and stop, get started and stop, get started and stop. I told you guys 2 years ago, when I started in this business, when I started rebranding my business, when I started getting online and connecting with people in online communities, guess what? It was phenomenal. I was in classes where there was hundreds of people, and all taking the same classes and getting the same information. Hundreds of people that I connected with over that time frame, and they got stuck. Good morning, Maria. They got stuck. They got to a point where the shift needed to happen, and they couldn't make that shift. They couldn't make that turn. When I'm talking to my clients, especially, you'll hear more about, oh my goodness, when you hear these stories that will be in this anthology, guys, it's going to be like nothing else. I could not have timed it any better. Let me tell you about timing. And when you make a shift and you decide that you're going to do something, how things will fall into alignment. And so literally, this is the timing of it. On June 29th is when we're launching the book, right? That morning we're having the launch, and it's going to be a live event. We're launching a tour, we're launching a book. And then that early afternoon, well, that late afternoon into the early evening, we'll be at the ILA Awards, because I've been nominated for an ILA, which is an Indie Author Legacy Award. I couldn't time that any better. I could not. So we're literally going to be celebrating all day long, just in celebration. But I had to make some shifts within my own mind last year when I did the tour the first time. Because if I didn't, then I would not be in position this year to do the tour. I had to make some shifts. Thank you, Pam. I had to make some shifts in my mindset that every location I was going to show up for, no matter what, that I wasn't going to cancel any events, because my brand was going to be different. I had to make sure that every time people showed up, I valued the fact that they were showing up, because my event had to be different. But it was a shift I had to have, because when I look at other people's events, that's not what I saw all the time. So I had to make sure that what was going to work for me was going to work for me. I had to. And do it in such a way that, man, it impacted lives. If I would not have done the tour and shifted my mind to doing a tour last year, I wouldn't have been in the right mindset to do the virtual summit this year and be able to connect with all those speakers. If I would have let my first experience with anthologies determine how I always looked at anthologies, we wouldn't be publishing an anthology this year. There's a shift that has to happen. Even when something negatively affects you, there's still going to be a shift of if you're going to let that thing continue to affect you. Are you going to continue to allow that thing to be the blinders over your eyes? For some of you, that's the reason why you haven't shifted, is because that thing that you went through was so painful that it became the blinders over your eyes. So now it's a thing of, do I really need to shift? I'm kind of comfortable right here. I've been living with this for so long. I don't really need to shift. They just gonna have to love me for who I am. I don't really need to take better care of myself. They just gonna figure it out. I don't really need to do this. I don't really. No, you do. You definitely do. But you need to do it according to what's best for your life, not what's best for somebody else. Come on. Michael said it. Favor ain't fair. You couldn't time it any better. Come on. Couldn't time it any better. But if I had not have made the shifts, then I would not be in position to to receive the things I'm receiving now. If I had not have made the shifts that I made then, I wouldn't be in the position to have a team now. If I did not make the shifts I made then, I wouldn't be in position to be looking at pictures of my daughter that she's sending me every day. I would not be able to see those things. I would not have been able to enjoy those things. We're sitting here trying to figure out what we're going to put on her banner for Sunday when we go to pick her up. There's a shift that needs to happen. Hey, Kendra, there's a shift that needs to occur. And the shift is going to happen in a couple ways. It's going to happen in the physical, it's going to happen in the spiritual, it's going to happen in the emotional, it's going to happen in the mental. There's going to be a shift that needs to happen. And if the shift does not happen, you end up stagnant and staying stuck where you are. So the shift has to happen. It has to happen. It's not going to make everybody happy, and that's okay. That's all right. Everybody ain't going to like you shifting. Because can I be honest? Everybody didn't like me shifting. Everybody didn't like me shifting. They didn't like that. But come on. Shifts matter. Everybody didn't like me shifting because it was uncomfortable for them to see me move and grow sometimes. Sometimes the people around you, it's going to be uncomfortable for them to see you shift because they're scared to shift themselves. So when we determine that we're going to make that shift, things happen. So one of the shifts that I had to make for 2019 is being more focused on doing things within my community. And so you guys saw the video or you saw the pictures of me going and signing a contract for me to have my books in the local bookstore and do some things with the local bookstore. You guys will see another video when I go and drop off the books for that and placing the book on the shelf or putting it in position. It's a process. It's a process of what we need to endure and what we need to go through. So the shift happened because I've gotten comfortable in going and doing all these events, all these different places, but I had to shift because there's some things that I need to do right where I am. Monica said, I often feel like I never got past first grade in life. Friends tell me not to be so hard on myself. Mentors tell me to acknowledge how far I've come. Even with that, I know there is greater greatness in me and results are still on the horizon. And that is so true. Good morning, Erica. Hey, sis. That is so true. So this is the thing, Monica, because we are our own worst critic. We'll take into consideration what other people say, but we will be our own worst critic. So if you're saying that there's something else that you need to do, so there's a moment that you need to have with yourself in saying, what is that thing? That may mean I need to take a week to myself and go to the beach. I need to take a week to myself and just shut everything down. I need to take a day and not speak to anybody and turn off the notifications. Y'all know I'm good for putting my phone on DND, do not disturb. I'm good for putting my phone on do not disturb and forgetting that it's on there. Because you got to take that moment to get back to what is it that I need. And then you need to connect yourself with someone or a group of people who are going to have that honesty moment with you and say, okay, well then, so what have you done? Let's look at what you have done and look at why you feel as though there's still more to be done. Because we all have that internal dialogue that there is going to be more that we need to do. There's going to be more people we want to connect with. There's going to be more books we want to sell. There's going to be more stages we want to be on. But we got to understand that there's also this need and desire for us to impact people. And if we don't see the impact that we're making on people, then we won't always see what it is we've really accomplished. If we don't see things changing sometimes, then we get into this mindset that we're not really doing enough or we've not done anything at all. And that's what it is sometimes. It's going back and saying, what has been the true impact that has been made? This is the thing, though. You have a lot of people that have done things and they haven't made impact in anybody else's life. They've made money. There's people that they can sell you anything and make money. I can take this table and sell it and make money. But what's the impact that I am trying to make? And when you are service oriented, when you are a heart-centered entrepreneur, there is something within you that makes you want to push harder when you want to see that impact in people. I want to see a change. Now, this is the thing. I may not see an immediate change, but all I need to do is see one spark. Hey, good morning. How are you this morning? All I need to see is one spark. I may not see every bit of change. I may not see every single thing that's going to occur in somebody's life. But if I could just see one spark, if I could just have somebody say, you know what? I understand now. If I could just have one person say, oh my goodness, because of you, my PayPal is blinging. If I could just have one person say, because of you, I've gotten out of my own way. This time last year, I was nowhere near where I am this year. I look for the impact. Not everybody does. So maybe that's what you need to do. You know how they do a gratitude journal? Do an impact jar or an impact journal. Do an impact journal or an impact jar. And look at all the things, people, and places that you have made an impact and put it in that jar. Turn off the phone, turn off the social media, sit down with yourself and say, where have I made an impact? Now, this is the thing. Good morning, Lisa. Some of you may only have a few things in a jar, and that's okay. Some of you may have a full jar, and that's okay. That's great. Some of you may not have anything at all in the jar. My prayer for you is that you'll find what you can be doing to make that impact. So even if by the end of this week, you're able to put one thing in that jar, you're able to see how amazing you are, how needed you are, how great you are. Even if you're able to add one thing by the end of this week, it could be literally, I went ahead and I gave someone a sandwich that didn't have something to eat. I went and I saw somebody trying to cross the street and they were struggling. And so I went and I helped them. That's great. Listen, that's making an impact. You're so welcome. That's making an impact. That's what we do in our community. That's making the impact. There are going to be some people, depending on what industry you are in, where you will be doing things and doing things and doing things, and you feel as though you are not doing a thing. You feel as though no impact is being made. You feel as though nothing's being done. You are an author, and you feel as though nobody's reading your book. You are a speaker, and you feel like when you get on stage, nobody is listening to your words. But the reality is that there's that shift has to come where now I'm like, okay, if only one person makes a change from me being on stage, it was worth it. Come on. If only one person buys my book and it impacts them to do something different in their lives, and it changes their lives, it changes their spouse's life, it changes their children's life, if only one person hears me. That's why I love you guys coming in and sharing and all of that. I appreciate it because it may not be for you. It may be for somebody on your timeline. I get it. But if one person comes to my broadcast and says, this is for me, then I've made an impact. If one person shows up for my program and says, this was for me, thank you, I've made an impact. If just one shows up. Good morning, Camille. If just one shows up, I've made an impact. That's my challenge to all of you. They talked about have a gratitude jar. Have an impact jar. How did you do it? Something to impact your children this week? Did you do something to impact somebody at your job this week? Did you do something to impact the industry, the community that you work in? Did you do something to impact somebody at church? Did you give a kind word? Did you do what is it that you did? Not just what was done for you. Come on. Y'all not understanding. Not just what was done for you, but what is it that you did for someone else? That part. Not just what you did for them, but did it make an impact for somebody? When we get to that point, man, the conversations will change, the community will change, the support will change, and we'll be in a position to see even greater things. But you got to make that shift. So for those of you who just came in, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. I'll do a quick recap. We said that the attributes for you to shift, you need a desire to learn. You need to get a handle on that time management. You need to have community and support. Your why has to be strong. And then that last piece of it is your consistency. I show up consistently for a reason. It's in that consistency that I've connected with people who've wanted me to speak at opportunities, speak on stages. It's been that consistency that's made people want to join my programs. It's been that consistency that has put me in front of the people that say, what it is that you have to offer, okay, I need it. You're making the impact on me. And I know that if I'm in your program, it will be even more. That's literally, that consistency is what it is. This has been like 3 years going strong, live streaming. Consistency. The morning press. This is the 3rd year of the morning press. Consistent. I went back and I started sharing out some of the older morning presses that were here on Facebook because we started out on Periscope. And so I started sending out some of the older ones and I just go, wow. The message has always been a message of empowerment. Always been a message of impact. Always been a message of support. Great things are coming. It's time to make that shift. So I appreciate you guys. Don't forget, you can come join the free Facebook group, #World Voice League. We would love to have you in the community. And you'll learn about all the other different opportunities that we have when you come and join in the community. But it's time for a shift. And when we make that shift, it'll make all the difference for our future. I appreciate you guys. And until next time, don't forget to press it out. See ya.